all emotions have a shelf life. So they're all going to go away if you allow them to exist in your body. And they're just vibrations. Nobody's going to die from an emotion. You have to allow them to be there, or even better, if it's an emotion that you're indulging in, so like guilt or worry or self-pity or stress, making the choice and doing the brain work to choose a different emotion, which is always in your power, and changing your thoughts on circumstances that are facts that you can't change can allow you to feel so very differently when you're in them. Welcome to Becoming Tantalum with me, Megan Bonnell. Discover your brightest self in a journey of transformation and resilience. Let's embark on this path together, starting now. Hello, my friends, and welcome to Becoming Tantalum, where we're going to transform the ordinary into extraordinary and turn your life's challenges into triumphs. I'm your host, Megan Bonnell, and I am thrilled to bring you the final episode in our month-long journey of cultivating resilience. So today we're going to be diving deep into the world of stress, struggles, and strategies, how to manage life's curveballs. So for the past few weeks, we've tackled how to build your resilience muscle, the incredible power of shifting from a fixed to a growth mindset, and then the art of embracing failure. So each of these episodes has equipped us with the tools that we need to face whatever adversity we have going on head on. But today, we're going to wrap it all up as we tackle one of the trickiest parts of life, which is managing stress and struggle. So on a personal note, this is maybe a little bit of a teaser because I'm going to start it and then end the episode with this. I had a very interesting conversation with a few of my friends. They were expressing to me how they felt bad sharing their struggles and challenges with me because I never seem to struggle. I laugh at that because we all struggle, right? But I seem to handle everything in stride. And one had even mentioned that it seems like even when I do talk about challenges, I'm always focusing on the positive and making it okay. And that I'm never owning up to like the negative side or, living in that difficult part. And this same conversation came up unrelated 2 more times with 3 different people. And I found it fascinating. And I think that it is so relatable to this. So I'm going to put a pause on that because it was very interesting. And I think it definitely relates to what we're talking about. But I have to cover some ground first, and then we'll get back to why all of that makes so much sense. So let's kick things off with a quote that I absolutely adore. It's by a guy named Hans Selye, might be Hans Selye, but he is the father essentially of stress research. And he says, it's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. Couldn't agree more. Understanding stress and managing it effectively is paramount in building your resilience, which is what we're talking about, right? So stress isn't just a buzzword, although I think that we use it far too often, but it really is truly a physical and a psychological reaction that if you leave unchecked can really take over your life. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. So, you know that I'm a science nerd. I say that all the time. But we're going to start by talking about a fascinating study that was done on stress and brain plasticity. Remember that plasticity is the idea that you have neural connections in your brain. They form these pathways, and that's what your primitive brain spits out. And that's where your thoughts come from, your beliefs come from, all of that. Well, researchers have found that moderate stress strengthens the brain's connectivity and plasticity, specifically by enhancing the connections between neurons in the brain. That means, good news, that stress, to a degree, can help us adapt and learn and even improve our mental resilience, which I love. But, and this is a really big but, when stress becomes chronic, then it can do the opposite by impairing your brain function and your mood. So we really need to keep that stress in check so we can make sure that it is helping us with our brain plasticity instead of hindering our brain's ability to function. So how do we keep stress in that really sweet spot where it's beneficial and not detrimental? That is what we're going to talk about today. So let's take a minute to talk about stress and struggle and kind of clarifying that. Like, what really is stress and struggle. So, stress is really just a lack of clarity and focus. It's our brain's reaction to not having clarity and focus. You stress because you aren't making progress. And usually that's because there's a lack of focus and clarity. So you get overwhelmed because you're looking at the forest, right? Instead of at the trees. For any situation that's considered stressful, spending time to get clarity and carefully planning your focus can remove that feeling of stress, because stress is very vague. It's just kind of an overwhelming, overarching umbrella feeling to what's actually happening underneath. And you can do anything, my friends, just a little bit at a time, right? So you can feel anything. No emotion's going to kill you. But stress is overarching that, looking at all of it at one time without actually looking at those little things, those little emotions, one piece at a time. And so it overwhelms you purely because you don't have enough specifics, not enough information for your brain to process it efficiently. So feeling as though you're struggling is usually a result of unintentional focus or resistance. So, doing the work to get a plan together and focusing on steps of that plan really helps. But what is this whole resistance thing? Oh my goodness, we do this all the time. So, resistance is the opposite of acceptance, and it doesn't serve you in any way. Like, never, ever, ever. You might find yourself pushing back against something that is not changeable. It's a fact, it's a situation or a circumstance you don't have control over. And yet, your energy and your focus you're spending on pushing back, on resisting something that just is, and not doing what you need to do, which is controlling what is in your control. So, let me give you an example. I had a client, and by the way, anytime I mention clients, I promise that I have permission to talk about them and they know that I'm talking about them. So, this particular client was a working mom. We're going to call her Linda. Linda wanted to further her education while still working and being a mom. And you can imagine that instantly means that she's adding something to her plate, another hat that she's going to wear. So if you are a working mom, then you can relate to this because you're a mom, like 27 hours a day, right? Regardless of whether you're at work or your kids are at school, like you still are that mom. You're on call full time. If you're working, there's another dedicated 40 plus hours a week. Usually there's a plus because there's getting there and getting ready and all of that. And don't forget, that you're managing your house and you're cooking all the meals and you're doing all the prep and you're driving your kids to their sports and their activities. And not that you don't have somebody to help you, or maybe you don't, but it's just a lot, right? And so this client also wanted to start working towards earning her MBA. On top of all of that, I love it. There was a specific path that she wanted to take in her company that required that degree. I'm all in. I love that. She has a plan. She has a future she wants. I'm in. And so was she. But what was debilitating to her and overwhelming to her was the struggle feeling and the stress feeling that came from knowing all of these things that she had to do, her life that was already so packed full. And how was she going to make it happen? So many things, so many responsibilities, not enough time. And that, hear that again, so many things, so many responsibilities, not enough time. That was the indulgent story that she kept telling herself in her mind. That's stressful. That seems like a struggle. That story, that very non-specific story, kept her feeling that stress about the situation and feeling as if she was living in this constant struggle. This is why she came to me. I am sure that many of you can relate to that. It might not be that specific situation, but you just feel like you live in this constant stress and this constant struggle. So how can you change that if you can't change any of your circumstances? Clarity and focus and acceptance. So, what does that look like? First, and this is what I went through with Linda. So, I'm going to sprinkle her throughout this so you can see what it looked like for her, but then you can apply it to you. You have to understand your circumstances, the facts, and the truth. Not the story you're telling yourself, but exactly what is happening. So, in Linda's case, she needed to clarify really, really specifically and state her responsibilities. So, what did her new MBA program include? What would that look like? We went through and decided if there was anything that she could change or delegate as far as what she was doing at home. So, what are her responsibilities at home? What are her responsibilities at work? Like, really getting very specific and very clear, and then looking at those and seeing if there's anything that you can change or you can delegate and change those facts in any way. Okay, so just really clear on exactly what is happening. And then you have to accept those as facts. But you can accept them not as a heavy responsibility that's just one more thing that's on your plate. She's a mom, right? That comes with a ton, but she wouldn't change that. She had a job with a company that she loves. She wouldn't change that. She wanted to further her education so that she could promote in that company. She doesn't want to change that. Her kiddos are involved in a ton of activities outside of school. She doesn't want to change that. And she accepted all of those things as things that she wanted and was choosing in her life. So you have to accept that the challenge is going to go along with those facts, right? So you have all these facts, you need to accept them, not resist them, and accept that there's going to be challenges. So her time was going to be exceedingly tight. She would have needed to complete some of her schooling probably at night, or do some of her like daily prep work, house management stuff at night, or she works out all the time. So, like, doing her workouts at night. We talked about what she could give up or change just during this specific little season, right? Just while she's getting her MBA, so that she could free up time or use that more flexibly. And so in her case, it takes her about 90 minutes to go to the gym and back, right? Go to the gym, workout, and come back. So could she work out at home and save some of that time? It's temporary, just while she's in her program. Yep. Could she then meal prep maybe, or do some of that housework during that time that she saved? Yep. Earning her time here. She loves herself some quiet TV chill time after the kids go to bed. Could she, though, either lessen that or maybe only do that on the weekends and do some work then instead? It's temporary. Remember, all of this is stuff that she wants to do. Yeah. And so she accepted the challenge of really rethinking how she's structuring her days and where her focus was going to be, so that she had the time to make all of these things happen without resisting it. And then make a plan. So make it really clear what needs to be done and when. Nothing, like not a single thing that Linda had to do was too hard for her. She just had to focus on the task at hand and make sure that everything was planned out appropriately, so that instead of looking at her entire busy day or week, she was just looking at exactly what she needed to be doing right then. So we laid out a sample week, looked at each item. Was it possible? Absolutely. Was it doable? Absolutely. Could she make it happen? Absolutely. And that allowed her to live in those moments. You're doing school, you're doing housework, you're working with, playing with the kids, you're watching them on activity, but you can live in that moment because she's not stressing, again, that like indulgent story about everything that she has going on. And when you break it down into circumstances, into facts and tasks, you get clarity and you can recognize that all of it is doable. Accept those facts, accept those challenges. And when you make the choice to accept what you can't change, instead of resisting and pushing against it, what happens is you get this shift in your mind. And so in Linda's case, she was stressed with all the things, but all her things were good. She loved her kids. Stay in that mind frame. She loved that they were involved in activities. Perfect. Feel that gratitude. She loved her job. That's amazing, right? How many of us can actually say that we love what it is that we do? She was excited to get her MBA and the future opportunities that opened at work. That's motivation. All of those are great, amazing emotions to have. And so when you're not stressing about the overarching season or whatever it is that's going on, it allows you to feel and really soak in those positive emotions instead. Because stress is really an indulgent emotion that doesn't serve you in any way. It's based on you not doing the work to gain clarity, to choose to accept instead of resist, and then make sure that you are planning enough to allow yourself to focus moment to moment. So is Linda going to be busy? Oh, yeah, she is. And is it worth it? Yes. Was it her choice? Absolutely. So instead of focusing on the busy and the stress and living in that story, she now chooses to focus on the gratitude and the opportunities and the love and that motivation. And that makes her grind, like that daily grind, not so grinding, but instead she's enjoying each of those moments, soaking each of them in. It's allowing her to focus and just be present in all of those. And so that clarity, acceptance, and focus strategy can work really on a countless number of situations. And so I highly recommend, if you feel that overarching stress or you feel like you're just in this daily struggle, give it a try and see if that's something that can work for you. So I wanted to give you another, maybe even more relatable example because it's not as specific as Linda. So I'm going to talk about Julia, and I'll talk about her in a much more vague way. So she's a client of mine who came to me because she was super overwhelmed with stress at work and at home. That is not uncommon, by the way. That's probably the most common reason that I see people is it's just they're not loving the life that they're in, but all the pieces aren't necessarily bad. Julia felt like she was juggling a dozen balls all at one time and that all of them at any point in time can just come crashing down. She just felt this inevitable doom. Can you relate to that? I feel like I have totally been there. So I'm guessing you can in some way. We've all been there somehow. So together, Julie and I worked on tangible strategies, like actual things that she can do, not just survive that daily grind, but to thrive in it instead. So, along with working on what I talked about with Linda, with the clarity and acceptance and focus, Julie and I worked on implementing some habits that can alleviate stress and struggle. And so I I'm not telling you to do this instead of clarity and acceptance and focus. I'm saying this is also something that you can do. And it absolutely changed her world. So, what I suggested for her and what we really dove deep into what her issues were and did some mind work. But then there were some things that were missing from just her daily habits that I knew would change her whole world. So, one, I really encouraged her to start having a habit of mindfulness or meditation or gratitude. And everybody does this in a totally different way. She decided to practice mindfulness every morning, just 10 minutes of sitting quietly and focusing on her breath and letting go of the chaos that was literally within her and in her brain. And the change wasn't overnight, it took work. But within a few weeks, she said that she felt a lot more centered and that she didn't react as much to anything that seemed stressful, but could calmly respond instead. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. That's just how Julia chose to do it. But I would highly recommend looking at your habits and do you have a very small amount of time to set aside each day that you focus on either mindfulness, meditation, journaling, gratitude. I mean, it can be super simple and super quick. And if you don't, I highly recommend putting that into your daily routine somewhere, even if it's only 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, I promise. The next thing is that she just didn't move that much. And I know there's a ton of research studies, but the positive results of just having your body move. So you don't have to go to the gym like Linda does. She was like a big weightlifter, and that's awesome. But instead, just move, just incorporate regular exercise. And that's what Julia did. So she incorporated just a regular exercise into her routine. For her, it was just like a quick walk around the block, or she tried out a yoga class here or there, but just moving her body, taking her dogs for a walk, moving her body helped to reduce that overwhelming, stressful feeling. And anything to get you moving will help. Okay. So anything that she added was something that she hadn't done before, and you might be in that same boat. She never took a lot of time for this. She was never going to be a 2 hour gym person. And sometimes she combined this with her mindfulness or meditation and gratitude. And sometimes she would do that while she was out on a walk. And so that's an option too. But get yourself moving if that's not something that you do often. This went a really long way for her. And I've seen that work with other clients as well. And then just becoming and we've talked about this before a couple months ago, but become very aware of your emotions and accepting them or choosing a different one. So in Julia's case, she was a huge resistor of negative emotions, and she is not alone in that. There's a lot of us that do that. So she would just push them down, ignore them, buffer them. That really causes them to be much stronger and almost violent in your life. They are going to find a way to be felt. That's how it works. So we worked on her becoming really aware of exactly what it is that she's feeling, accepting that feeling, and just letting them exist and run their course through her body. All emotions have a shelf life. So they're all going to go away if you allow them to exist in your body. And they're just vibrations. Nobody's going to die from an emotion. You have to allow them to be there, or even better, if it's an emotion that you're indulging in, so like guilt or worry or self pity or stress, making the choice and doing the brain work to choose a different emotion, which is always in your power, and changing your thoughts on circumstances that are facts that you can't change can allow you to feel so very differently when you're in them. And we've talked about the steer process before. This is an example of when you can use that process. And then the last thing that Julie and I worked on was tackling problems in a problem solving way. So anything that was causing her stress, tackling it head on, and then going through kind of what we talked about before when I was talking about Linda. So working through some structured problem solving techniques, breaking them down, and it just made it a lot easier for her to be solution focused and doing focused instead of indulging in that stress and the struggle. So the takeaway here is that it's your choice. You can choose to live and indulge in that feeling of overwhelm, of stress, of living in a struggle, or you can put in the work to gain clarity, to choose acceptance, and to focus in on what you can do, what's in your control within your circumstances, so that you're living your life instead of living in that constant survival mode, stress mode, struggle mode. And I think, my friend, that life is far too short to live with stress and struggle. I think that life is going to throw you curveballs and it's not going to stop. That's just the human experience. But how you handle them and how you bounce back with your resilience muscle, that is up to you. So, going back to the beginning, when I mentioned that several of my friends in totally unrelated different conversations stated that it seemed like I could just handle anything, that I don't get flustered, that I never seem to struggle. Let's get back to that. Accurate. 100%. What it is that they accuse me of is true. So here's the truth. I do have challenges. I am living the human experience just like you are, just like anybody else is. And I am faced with circumstances that are really difficult at times. And they're right. I do my best to handle them in stride. I do the work to focus on the positive, to get clarity, to have acceptance, and to focus on what it is that I can actually do and make it okay without dwelling and indulging in that negative story that we often tell ourselves. And guess what the result of that is? I don't live in stress. I don't live feeling like I'm struggling. I don't live feeling as though I'm just so busy. That's like such a common response for people, right? Like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. I am busy. I have 4 kids. I have my own business. I have all the sports. I have activities in the house and the hubby, and I'm incredibly busy. But I don't live feeling busy. I live one task at a time with proper planning so I know I'm not missing anything. Thank goodness for Monday morning power hour. And I just rock through each day one thing at a time. And something that's new, different, challenging comes up, I get that clarity. I figure out what it is that I need to accept and then get to work on what it is that I need to focus on, change, and do. I want to know though, how do you want to feel in life? Because it was almost as if during some of these conversations, it was like I was choosing to ignore real life. But here's the thing, that life is going to throw you curveballs. You are going to have a lot to do. It's going to be tough, right? And seasons sometimes are going to be stupid hard or stupid busy. But do you want to have your reality in life that you feel stress, resentment, resistance, struggle? Do you want that to define you? Or do you want your reality to be that you can face any of those challenges, that you can face any of those tough seasons with the knowledge and a strong feeling that you can do anything, with acceptance instead of resistance, with focus so that you can enjoy a purposeful life? Because it's a choice, 100%. And that is one of the main reasons why I do what I do, why I wanted to become a life coach to begin with, because you don't have to live life in a way that you're not loving. You don't have to live in relation to the topic this month, you don't have to live in stress and struggle and darkness. You don't have to live in resentment and resistance. You don't have to have things throw you off track and have such a difficult time getting back on track or never return to the journey you were on. Life is way too short for that, and you only get one shot at it. And so most of my clients, honestly, at some point in time in their journey with me, go through this work because most of them need to dive deep into this process and do the work of shifting their brain so that it can respond to situations in life in the way that they want it to. But that shift changes everything. It changes how you feel about relationships and circumstances and your task. It changes how much joy you allow into your heart and into your mind. It opens you up to making more progress, living your moments, like all of the moments that you have, and truly loving your life, because you're doing all of those things that allows you to have the capacity to create in your life what you truly desire. My friends' accusations of me were 100% true. And I am not upset about that because I made that shift. I did that work. And guess what? I'm not thrown off course easily at all. I'm not sitting and dwelling in my stress and my struggle. I'm enjoying the hard and the fails and the great moments. And my heart and my mind are full of gratitude and joy and pride and motivation because of that work that I did, because of that shift, because of that clarity and acceptance and resilience that I have. And that's what I want for you, my friend. I want you to feel this, to know this, and to love your moments because those are the choices that you're making. So as we close up in our whole series of cultivating resilience, so all of April, I want you to remember this. Building resistance is not about preventing a bad day. It's about being able to recover from them quickly and effectively. And more, it isn't about coming back from hard circumstances, from coming back from a tough season. It's really about learning how to effectively and joyfully dance in that rain while you're in it, even if it's on a daily basis. Accepting that and loving that. And I promise you, that is so very possible. Jeffrey Gitomer said that resilience is not what happens to you. It's how you react to, respond to, and recover from what happens to you. So well stated. If you take one thing away from our time together today, I would love for this to be it. You are capable of extraordinary things, including turning your stress and your struggles into strategies for a successful, joyful life. Truly allowing joy to be a big part of your life, regardless of your circumstances. And then you can change those circumstances because you'll have the capacity to do so. So thank you for joining me on this journey today. I hope that you found the insights valuable, and I hope that you can use some of these practical tips and apply them to your life. Don't forget to check out the website, tantalumcoaching.com, if you need more resources, have any questions. Consider signing up for our newsletter. We always take all of this information and give you some very practical, applicable tips. And of course, there's all kinds of fun offers in there if there's anything you're interested in life coaching wise. And I want to offer you this now. If you need help with this, because this is maybe the biggest life changer shift that I've ever talked about so far. If you need help with building your resilience, making that mental shift, please reach out because I would love to help you change your life. Until next time, keep embracing every part of your journey, including the curveballs. It's just part of the human experience. They're not just obstacles, they're opportunities for you to become stronger and wiser and more of your own version of Tantalum. I'll see you next time on Becoming Tantalum. Stay resilient, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to take all of these concepts and tools to a deeper level, apply them to your life, and watch the transformation happen, I would love for you to join the Tantalum Tribe. That's a monthly membership where all of our community has access to live coaching, self-paced courses, guest coaches, podcast study guides, anonymous question boards, and more. You too can transform your life using the tools and strategies that we have with accountability built in from our community. I really hope that you join us at tantalumcoaching.com. That's TANTALUM coaching.com. Just click join the tribe. I can't wait to see you in there.
An Ironic Media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.